and welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mum needs a tribe. I'm Claire Strong.
And I'm Christina Streckmeyer. We're two moms just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often isolating world of motherhood.
Now, it's said that it takes a village to raise a child, but we want to know, where the F is that village?
Yep, it's a question that resonates with so many of us who find ourselves raising children, managing careers, and trying to maintain our own identities, often with a sense of isolation.
But we're here to remind you that you're not alone. The Momversation Club is your place, where you feel valued, appreciated, and understood.
We believe that by sharing our own experiences, success, and struggles, that we can create a virtual village for all you amazing moms out there.
So join us every week for a real, raw, and relatable discussion about all aspects of being a mum, including the stuff you just can't talk about with anyone else.
So if you've ever asked yourself, where the heck is that village everybody keeps talking about? Then you found your tribe. Let's get into it.
Hi, Christina.
Hey, Claire. I'm excited to see you. You look so cute.
Thank you so much. So this top I'm wearing, it's from England. I got it ages ago before I moved here. And I used to wear it all the time. And I kind of forgot about it, honestly. And then I brought it out for today's show. So, yeah.
Isn't that kind of nice? It's like having new clothes because you forgot about those.
It really is. And you know what I like about this? I don't know whether the camera's picking it up, but it's got these like really pretty little kind of like secret. They look like pearls almost. They're obviously not.
Oh, no, I didn't see those.
I really like it. Yeah, it's just really pretty.
Oh, man. Well, if you are listening on podcast, you might want to come over to the YouTube after and take a look at her top because it is pretty cute.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I like this one. But I love yours too. Look at I love the sleeves. They're really cute.
It's very flowy, which is not my usual go-to. Like, I don't typically do the flowy thing. But I was shopping with my friend and we saw it on the rack and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try it because I think it'll be cute for camera, at least from the waist up, right?
I think that really suits you. I'm surprised when you've just told me that you don't do flowy. That really suits you. I love it. Like with your hair.
Oh, thank you.
You've got the nicest hair. You've got such
Oh my gosh,
hair.
Claire. If we could just connect every day on FaceTime and you can just give me this pep talk, that would be great.
I would happily do that. I mean every word of it. You're so gorgeous. Well, listen, what are we chatting about today?
Well, today's topic was something we had talked about maybe doing together just because it's part of our parenting, but also it's prominent in my life right now. We're going to be talking about big feelings and how to navigate them both with ourselves and also with our little ones / not so little ones on your side of the woods. But the reason it's prominent is my husband is in the middle of doing some work stuff and things keep breaking down on him. I feel so bad.
Shoot. Like what?
I know.
What keeps breaking down?
There was like a belt on one of his tractors that broke and it's a couple $1,000 and like there's just all this stuff. Every season that we have any sort of work going on, whether it's harvest or planting, like there's something that breaks or something that happens. And when that happens, he's obviously not stoked. And sometimes that simmerness of like upset will come into the household. And he's really, because life happens and we get upset sometimes. My little one, Stella, is really perceptive to feelings and can like really tell when someone's upset. And so we had a lot of discussions this week about why it's okay that you're upset and like how to navigate that and how to deal with it when you're really, really mad.
I love that because so that's a similar situation in our household. So my eldest particularly is very receptive and very she's just very in tune with people's emotions. She always has been actually. And so she can really pick up if there's something off, if you're quiet or if you're angry, even if you're trying to keep a lid on it, she can pick that up. So that's really interesting that you've had this conversation this week. You're very mature in your house, by the way.
I mean, sometimes, Claire, not all the time. I have to say, I don't keep a lid on my feelings like that all of the time. There are times where I don't show up as my best self, for instance, and we'll have a moment, an opportunity to talk about this at length when we do the full episode. But I recently went on a trip to Mexico, and It was very nice with the whole family. But I don't love traveling in airports with small children. It's not my favorite. It's not my
No,
favorite. And we'll
no,
talk
it's
about that
stressful.
another.
Oh yeah,
We'll talk about some tips and
I've got a
things.
fair few stories to add to that one too.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I will say, just to condense it, I had tolerated as much shit as I was going to tolerate that day.
Yeah.
When a certain airline stewardess like got a little snarky with me, and I may or may not have asked her, "What the fuck do you want me to do?"
Oh my God, you
Like,
didn't.
I did. I yelled, and I'm so happy I didn't get booted off the plane. It's not my normal self. Like, I typically do handle things very maturely, but sometimes you just have enough bullshit that you get to a place of like, I'm not my normal self, which is what I'm working on with my kids. So I was really bummed because they saw that version of me, as did everybody in the club. And so I'm kind of recovering from that. But just so you know, for the listeners out there, I am not perfect by any means. What we're going to talk about today is the gold standard of what I'm able to do when I'm of full sound body and mind. But I do have days where I look around and go, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Yeah,
I'm
I
losing
have a
my
lot of
mind.
those. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, talk about big feelings with your eldest, Stella, because, what
Yeah.
does that look like, and what do you have to do as a parent to defuse that situation?
Yeah. So when I was first having Stella,
Mhm.
I was healing through a lot of like trauma and things and ways that I would respond to people's anger, people's upsets. I was really sensitive to things as well. And so I went to therapy when Stella was really, really little, got a lot of tools for myself,
Right.
but not enough to really navigate the challenges I was to face. I did not know I
Okay.
was going to face. When she hit about 2, we definitely got the toddler tantrums, the
Yeah.
big feelings when they don't have the words to say the feelings, so they throw
Yeah.
themselves on the floor and like throw
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
We
Oh
all
yeah.
have been through it as moms, like,
Oh yes, I remember those delightful days.
whew. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, toddler tantrums," and you're like, "Yep, it's terrible twos," but then they forget like the threes, the fours, and like the fives are also equally as like, you're not getting your needs met because you're small.
Yeah, the 15s aren't great either. Yeah,
No.
yeah, go to the 15s. The 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 17s,
Exactly.
18s, and 19s.
Oh my gosh, Claire. No, I know. It's coming for me. So,
Sorry,
when
girl, I'm just getting you prepped.
I know. So when she was younger, the upsets were connected to her not being able to like tell me what she needs. But
Okay.
because of Stella's autism, that kept going because she couldn't really talk for a really long time. It's only in recent years that she's able to vocalize wants and needs and like feelings and stuff to us.
Mhm.
For a really long time, she couldn't talk. And so the toddler tantrum, like reasoning of why you would get one, continued on much longer than was
Wow.
typical of another child.
Okay.
On top of that, she, because of her autism, has a lot of sensory stuff where things
Yes.
become very overwhelming. And at the time, she couldn't vocalize what was happening, why, what she might need. It was a big guessing game. So we got a lot of feelings, and that resulted in a lot of hitting and kicking and yelling, just biting. Like I was getting
Wow.
beat up.
Oh my
And
God,
so
Christina.
we early on sought out help. Like we got some behavioral therapy underneath our belt. And one of the things they brought into the game was really looking at like television shows, books, and things like that to help navigate the feelings that they're having, and putting them into like a proactive space of what you could do when you're having these feelings,
Okay.
but also validating that those feelings exist.
Yes. Yes, that's a big one.
I don't know that, Claire, I don't know about your upbringing, but I don't remember being able to just be mad. It was like a
No,
lot of calm down, you're embarrassing me, you're upset. It wasn't like,
exactly.
I can see you're having a hard time, let's
Yes.
process this.
Yes. No, it was you're overreacting, you're being silly, you're being stupid, you're being spoiled, you're being badly behaved. And that's
Absolutely.
that's something that I've learned only in very recent years, again through therapy, that which is really helpful. I think if you are able to get therapy, whether it's with your child, just on with you, your partner, your child separately, whatever, I just can't recommend therapy highly enough.
Absolutely.
Um, but a couple of things that I learned in, like I say, just very, very recent years is whatever those feelings that person is going through at that time, they are valid. They're valid to them. They may seem a little ridiculous to us. You're like, my God, what an overreaction. But to them in that moment, it isn't an overreaction. Those feelings are valid. Whether you agree with them or not is a different thing. But I think the first step is to validate those feelings, so you acknowledge what they're feeling. And I think that's the first thing. So I can see why you would be so upset, even and this is a very mature thing to do, because particularly when it relates to kids, for example, and they're having a meltdown, and you get these meltdowns in teenage years too, except they're just in much bigger bodies, and then and
they say much meaner things, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah, which usually include, I hate you, you're such a terrible mum.
Oh,
so
no.
If you can just try and just like, kind of get rid of the noise and focus in on what the actual issue is and what their feelings are in that moment, I think that's what you need to do, because the worst thing you could do, particularly for teenagers, is not validate how they're feeling. If you minimize it and dismiss it and say, oh, you're being so silly, which I have done in the past. I have done that. I'll raise my hands and admit to that. But I'm learning now that even though it might sound trivial to me, it's not trivial for them in that moment.
Yeah.
And if you can just find that in you to acknowledge that and give them space, which is another thing I want to talk to you about, is how you like practically go about dealing with these situations. I found that when my kids they're overstimulated, they've kind of gone over the edge. They've gone past the point of return in that moment. And so me doing anything with them, frankly, is not constructive. So now that they're older and I'm not concerned about them, hurting themselves or whatever, I will just leave their room. I'll leave their bedroom. They'll actually ask me. They have the good sense to say, Mum, I can't talk about this now. I'll talk to you about it later. I need you to leave my room. And before I would have argued with them like, well, I'm not leaving your room. I need to talk about this. This is not, why is this happening? Why did you say? And so now I take their lead and I will get myself out of that situation and give them some space to calm down. And actually, because, both my girls are doing pretty good with emotional intelligence, they will, once they've calmed down, say, Mom, I'm sorry I shouted earlier. I'm sorry I did this. This is why. And then because they've calmed down, they're in a position where we can actually have a constructive dialogue. So it's just interesting. But my girls are obviously older. So going back to your situation at home with the kids, what do you do?
Where does it start, right?
Yeah, where does it start? And how do you practically manage that situation, other than acknowledging what they're feeling at the time?
It totally depends on the situation. Okay. I think that you have to kind of like navigate that case by case. But I agree. I think validating their feelings from the get-go is really helpful.
Yep.
One of the most tangible places that I do it is when my little one, the toddler, when she falls and gets hurt, which is often because they're constantly trying new things.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember a lot of like, you're okay, you're okay. Like, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. Like, or, trying to dismiss the feeling. I don't do that. Like, when she falls, I go, ouch, that looked like it hurt. Would you like a hug? Oh, I'm so sorry you fell. That looks like it really hurts. I'm sorry that you hit your head, or I'm sorry that you fell and you were trying to reach that toy. Do you want me to help you get the toy? Like, I'm like, let me validate the fact that you fell. It hurt. It was kind of scary. Like, instead of saying you're okay, because even at that young age, they're learning like, oh, I have to dismiss this feeling of being hurt.
Can you imagine as an adult, if we fell, it's the worst thing ever falling. It hurts so bad. It's just awful. Sucks. It really is bad. Can you imagine someone saying to us in that moment, oh, you're okay, get up. And you've got your knees cut open and, you're really upset and you're shook up. And we just wouldn't do that. So why do we do that with the kids? I think maybe the default setting is to try and toughen them up for life. I think that's what it probably comes down to.
Well, and I do want them to be tough. Like, that is something I will intentionally bring into my parenting, because I feel like there's a lot of good things that come from learning stuff, but not at 1.5. Like, I think that we can validate her feelings at the moment. But same situation if Stella is having an upset if I know the reason, because nowadays I know the reason, I know what's
Okay.
going on. I can say something like, I can see that you're really angry about that. That hurt your feelings, huh? Or you really wanted more time swimming today. I can see that, and I gave you that 5-minute warning and I let you know we're going to leave, but it's not enough right now. You feel like you want to keep swimming. We're going to come back tomorrow. Maybe we can do this tomorrow and like let her know like, hey, this is the next time this is going to happen. Or if she's really upset about something that has to happen, like bedtime, I know it's upsetting to stop doing what you're doing, but we have to go to bed or else you're not going to get any rest. You're going to be really cranky tomorrow. Like I give reasons as to why things are happening the way they're happening. And I try to, if it's something upsetting, get in front of it by like giving them a little bit of a warning that it's coming, like with transitions.
Yeah.
Especially because of Stella, I'll say, hey, in 10 minutes, we're going to be leaving this park. In 10 minutes. And I'll say, do you want a timer or do you want a 5-minute reminder? And she'll say no timer.
You give her, sorry to interrupt you, Christina, but that's just very interesting hearing you say that. So you're giving her basically a choice. So you're giving her some responsibility and some say in that, which I really like.
Yes, I learned that from behavioral therapy is to give them as much choices as you can within reason.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
For things that they can control, because as little kids, they don't really have a lot of control of stuff. So we do things like visual calendars and letting them know what their schedule is going to be today. And if we're not near a visual calendar, like writing something down on a piece of paper and saying, first we're going to go here, then we're going to go there, and then you will be able to do this thing that you like at this time after lunch. Just to give them an idea of what's happening. Because they really feel like they're just kind of everywhere.
Really
and it's very disarming.
Yeah, especially if you've got kids that maybe, have ADHD and they like they need to know what's going on. They like the order and the routine and if your kids are on the spectrum, I think that's really important. So I love that. I really love that.
Well, like one of the things we've been dealing with lately is she really loves the shower and she is learning how to shower herself.
Oh, that's great.
It's just like a lot of soap on the top of her head and none on the bottom. No shampoo on the bottom. And I'm like, let's kind of work the lather. And so we're working on it, but she really does not want to get out. And so I'll say things like, well, we have to get out in 10 minutes. Before we go, do you want to listen to music or do you want to write your name on the fog? I'll give her choices of like, we are going to be doing this, but like, here's 2 things that we can do right now. Or for dinner, here are 2 things we can have. Which one sounds better to you?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's hard to sometimes so say the third choice. She'll say, oh, I want chicken nuggets. And I'm like, chicken nuggets isn't on the menu today. We can have this or this. And I usually use my hands, like go left, right to kind of give her a visual of those choices.
And does this work? Does this tactic work, this technique?
It has since I've implemented it. Yeah, it has. Giving her, this is kind of just getting in front of emotions is like just giving her a lot of choices, getting her some structure, letting her know when things are going to happen.
Yeah.
It's really important. But no matter what, sometimes things just hit. They're pissed off they have to get out of the pool or like they wanted mac and cheese for dinner and that wasn't an option. So now they're having an upset. At that point, I bring in some of the earlier tools I mentioned of like TV shows and books, and I'll remind them about those characters. For instance, I have some books and some tools that I've used with my girls.
Okay. Have you got anything to show us? What are you?
Yes, I have some visuals. So I'm gonna tag the author and like the link to the book for Amazon in our show notes.
Yeah. Okay. Good idea.
But so I have 2 that I'm using right now the most. Like there's a bunch out there. There's like so many good books. And if you have older kids, like there are a lot of good books that are like journals and like things that they can use in older years.
Yes, there are.
These are just for like, I would say 0 to like 7 or 8. Like I would say that they're appropriate for that age.
Okay, well, listen, why don't we, because I haven't got anything to kind of show or speak on right now, but why don't we do a little bit of digging and also include in our show notes some books for teenagers? I think that would be really helpful too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the ones I use a lot is this book called Calm Down, Little Monkey. Aww. It's by Michael Dahl, and basically it's the story of a monkey who is eating an ice cream cone and he drops it. and he's really upset about it. And it goes over like he's hitting and kicking and yelling because he's just so upset. And then it gives you like tangible tools. But first it empathizes with the monkey. It'll say like, oh, poor little monkey. And like he's got a sad face. And you can talk to your child about like, how do you know he's sad? Oh, look, his eyes are welling up. You know, he's got a sad face. Like, and then it talks about like he's having a tough time. It's not that he's a jerk. He's not a brat or, you know, spoiled. He's having a tough time.
Yes, I love that.
And then, you know, just the language. And then talks about it's okay to cry. There's some things you can do, like cuddling with your blanket, deep breaths, singing a song to yourself, hugs. Like there's different tools he can use.
Yeah.
So what we'll do sometimes is in the thick of the thing, like for instance, yesterday, she didn't want to get out of the shower. So I was trying to help her out and she decided to dead weight her whole body when she's like 80 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And so I was trying to hold her up by her armpits. She's naked. She's slippery. It's a whole thing.
Oh, God.
And I was like, she got onto the ground. She's crying. She's super upset. I turned off the water and I said like, it sounds like you're having a hard time with little monkey right now. What do you think we can do to help you? Like first we need to make sure you're safe. So we need to get you out of this tub and make sure you're dry so you don't fall. But then like, what do you think we can do? And like, I gave her some options, just 2 or 3, not too many to overload her.
Yeah.
And she decided she wanted a hug.
Oh.
Yeah. So I put the towel around her and I just gave her a big sensory hug and just like squeezed her. And when I say sensory hug, I squeeze her and then I kind of squeeze her arms down.
Okay.
Just to kind of give her some regulation.
Oh, wow. And so it's not just that you're hugging her. This is very specific.
Yeah. But if you know, I think that would help any child, like just a big bear hug. And then as you're coming out of the hug, I kind of just squeeze her arms gently coming down to her hips.
Oh, that sounds really nice.
Isn't that nice? Like, can you imagine like you getting a big bear hug with someone bigger than you and then like little squeezes?
I love it. I want one of those.
I know. And so that really helps. And there's a lot of books like that where it like names the feeling. And I like the language. Like you are not a bad kid if you're crying or upset. Like you are just having a tough time with the emotion that's happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think it's the adults that are the issue in that situation, though, because I think we are just programmed to think it's bad behavior and to, you know, to discipline that situation rather than see it for what it is. Okay, so let's get on to you and I. What about our big emotions? So, for example, you know, Alex has pissed you off or, you know, one of the kids is just driving you insane. Like, how do you regulate yourself when what you really want to do is just, you know, swear at them all and throw stuff?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in like your first reaction doesn't have to be your only reaction. And so if I lose my cool, I'm really good about going out of the other room, taking a deep breath and coming back and like apologizing and fessing up for those feelings. So for instance, like Stella has dead weighted in the shower before. Yeah. I don't always calm down little monkey yet. Sometimes I'm like, get off the floor. You're going to hurt yourself. Yeah. If it hurts me in some way, I get really upset if the baby's screaming and watching this. It makes me feel really upset that she's watching this whole fight struggle. Yeah. And so I might say some choice words and like be mean. And so if I lose my cool though, I make sure that, you know, when I'm tucking her in or in the next opportunity, I'm sitting down and saying, I didn't handle that well. Yeah. I did not handle that feeling well. I was very frustrated and I should not have yelled at you like that. Yes. And I am sorry. And I think just like coming back to the table and being like, I'm not always doing the right stuff either. Yeah. I own it. So I think, and especially as the kids get older, you know, I had a similar situation with not the whole dead weight in the bathtub situation. But, you know, I don't think that's happening to you. No, it's very unique. Thank God, it's the only thing that isn't happening. But there was something, and you know, and I'm doing a better job at this, but in that moment, I didn't. I kind of lost it, and I was downstairs saying stuff to myself, but not saying it very quietly about,
the daughter in question just got so frustrated, and she heard it all, and she said, "Mum, by the way, I heard everything you said." I was like, "Oh God." And so I was like, and so I just owned it. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't handle it very well. This triggered me. I was
Mm-hmm.
triggered. I didn't, I obviously didn't mean those things I said, and I'm sorry. And then, we're at a place now where she said to me, "Okay, thank you for apologizing. I'm sorry that and she apologized for whatever she did to set me off." And so that's like a pretty mature thing. And I do say to them as well that I will admit that I'm not perfect. I'll say, I get things wrong. I'm not perfect. I will say to them, "I'm sorry for how I handled that."
I think that that's great. I think a lot of old school parenting will tell you, I'm the parent, you're the child, you have to listen to me, blah, 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 blah. And like, well, that's respect is something we need to foster as parents for sure.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
way that you earn respect is to give respect. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that it would be really wonderful if parents were more open about the fact that they are people too.
Yeah.
I heard someone say once, "I'm really sorry. This is my first time being a parent right now." Like, this is my first time raising an 8-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still working on this.
This is the thing. And even though I've been a parent for 15 years now, it's still the first day that I've parented a 15-year-old and 3 months and 3-day-year-old. I mean, it's
Yeah.
every day is different and every situation is different. And we're not going to get it right. I don't get it right 50% of the time. If I got it right 50% of the time, I'd kind of see it as winning. I'm making this up as I go on. But my girls
Yeah.
know that I'm coming from a place of love. I have the best interests at heart, but I am a flawed character. I'm human. So the thing, what I will say is, Christina, as the children get older, when they're little, they do think that you do everything right, and as they start getting older, they realize that you don't.
Yeah.
And it can be, depending on the situation, it can sometimes be held against you, but in the same breath, it's just something that you have to be humble about. You have to be okay owning it, because we do make mistakes.
Yeah. I think that, especially teens, like I just
Yeah.
recall the interactions I had with my parents, and it was very much like, you guys are idiots, which I mean, I stand by in some form. Like, I definitely think there were some
There
decisions
was
that
a
needed to
grain
be
of
made.
truth in
No,
that.
but yeah, there was a very much like, if to everyone, authority
Yes.
everywhere. You guys
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about. I'm
Yeah.
correct. Like, it's me
Yeah.
against the world.
Yes.
And I think if you
Yeah.
can like just open the door of communication and keep that open for your kids, like I hope that it will result in my girls feeling they could come to me because I am processing their emotions with them from the beginning.
Yes.
But I don't know. It's just a theory at this point because my little ones aren't there yet. And I've never been parented this way. So I don't know the outcome of what's going to happen yet.
Well, it's a work in progress. I will absolutely tell
Yeah.
you that for sure. But okay, so
Yeah.
when it
But
comes to, so we've spoken about the kids. What
yeah.
about our partners? Like,
Oh, man.
what about big emotions when it comes to them? Not just how we react, but, does Alex, for example, you mentioned, that he's been upset about some technical issues on the farm this week. But does he typically react kind of big, or is that not typical for him?
In our relationship, and this is something I really loved about us from the beginning, is we're big
Yeah.
talkers. We like to talk things out.
Yeah, that's
And,
good.
when we're not in a high pressure situation, we're actually really, really wonderful at communicating.
Mm-hmm.
So typically in our own home, even if we're having big emotions with the kids or big emotions with like work stuff, if we're in our environment and we're able to process things together in the way that we always do, we talk about it, and I'll say something like, "Hey, I'm noticing that you're really stressed out right now. Is there anything I can do to like help make your day easier? Like,
Mm.
I know that you're up against it right now." And he'll say the same thing for me, like, "Oh, hey, I noticed that you haven't changed out of your pajamas. Do you need a minute to go take a shower? Maybe like, pee uninterrupted?" And I'm like,
Mm.
"Yes." And so we typically are able to get in front of it, much like, I talked about earlier with the kids, where we do a lot of work to get in front of a feeling before it happens.
Yeah.
So that when it does happen, it is like, "Hey, I'm really stressed out. Like, I'm going to be a little irritated and I'm sorry. And like, we can have some time here and kind of unwind and talk about it later. That being said, when we're not in our environment, we don't do very well with it at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
if we're traveling or like we're at someone else's house, it's very much like we revert to our worst versions of handling disputes.
Oh no.
It's bad. But then we always talk about like, hey, I'm sorry. I got short here because I was overwhelmed and then you did this and I felt bad. And I try to use a lot of I statements instead of blaming. So what that might look like. So like, instead of saying, for instance, I'm trying to think of something he did recently that was irritating. He likes to leave he doesn't like to. See, that's very, do you hear that? That was not good. That wasn't something I say. Okay. He often, when he takes off his work clothes, will just leave them wherever he's at. So like if he takes off his work clothes in the bathroom, they stay in the bathroom floor. If he is in the other room, in our room, he'll leave it on the floor. And I just pick them up all of the time. Okay. And sometimes it's fine. I really, most days don't care. But if I'm overwhelmed that day and I'm having to pick up all that stuff extra, I'm like, I'm not a freaking maid over here. Like, what the hell? Do you see the hamper that's right? Or did you not see it? Was it hidden? So I'll say something like, hey, I feel a little bit upset because I'm feeling like a little overlooked lately when it comes to like the stuff that I do, the invisible work, things like picking up other people's pants and clothes, and Stella will leave this, and I'll like bring in other examples of it.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, hey, can you stop leaving your clothes on the ground because it's really annoying me? I'll say something like, hey, I'm feeling this way. And that's not the best example, but I'm trying to like think of ways to I don't use defensive language is what I'm trying to say. I try not to say,
really good.
You did this, I'm right, you're wrong, like blah, blah, blah. That tends to, it just strokes the fire of anger that's going to come back. And even though he's not a yeller typically, it's still going to be like not the best response,
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples to share with Kyle and I, but he's not a yeller either. But what he will do is he can sometimes, be quite moody and quiet. And that's how and I don't like that either. So I think, what I'm listening to and what I'm kind of understanding really clearly during our conversation is it's totally down to communication. It's totally down to it because, and Kyle and I know as a couple, we need to do a better job of that. And that's something we are working on, because when we do actively communicate and when we are using thoughtful language and, like you say, not coming at things from a defensive standpoint, we actually do well too. And I think, most couples, if you were just to, learn the tools of communication, it can really make a massive difference to the mood in the house, to the mood between you and your partner. It's amazing how that can help.
And the thing about it is also knowing when you're at your wit's end. So like sometimes when I'm having a moment where I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed today. Like if one more person asks one more thing of me, I'm going to fly off the handle. If that's happening right now, I'm not going to pick up a fight or talk to him about something that's big. I'm going to choose when that happens, when I'm in a more like secure place, if I can. For instance, I had a recent situation where I have a family member that I haven't spoke to in a while, and we're going to see each other soon at a family event. And I said, you know what? I really need to reconnect with this person and talk with them, but I know that they're going to be pretty defensive. And it may start a lot of like backward motions, and it might make things worse if I don't come to them the right way. So I waited until I was in a good spot with it before I picked up that phone. And that I can control my side and keep the emotion at a certain space, even if the other person didn't really reciprocate.
Yes.
And then I made sure really to use my words well. For instance, like this person was upset with me, I hadn't reached out. And I had all the reasons as to why I hadn't reached out. And there was like so many things I could say. Here's all the valid reasons I can point at you as to why the hell I haven't reached out.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be productive.
No.
And so I just said, hey, I apologize for not being in touch.
Mm.
There was a lot of stuff on my side that was going on, and a lot of the things that were going on in your side were really hurting my heart. And I didn't really know the proper words to come to you with. And so I really am excited to be on the phone today. I'm really happy to be talking to you. This opportunity is really special. Thank you for being on the phone. How disarming is that?
Yes. You're going to get such a better outcome if you can just find it in yourself. Like you say, the it sounds like the key is to make sure that you are in a good place before you approach something
Every
like
time.
that. Because
Even with kids.
if you're already at a 10, the last thing that you should be doing is talking about something very substantive or something that could potentially trigger big emotions from the other side when you're not in a good place yourself. So I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many instances of that, not only with like family dynamics, work,
Yep.
relationships, kids. Like you've got to be in a place where your baseline's there so that you aren't like coming at it from a place of defensiveness or like attack. Any sort of like, if you're going to handle your child, you have to emotionally regulate before you try to regulate for them. Like you have to hold space for them to not be okay. And if you're
Yes.
both not okay, that's not going to be very helpful.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can recount so many times that I've just lost it with the girls. And so I've lost it, they've lost it. It's just a lose-lose situation. And then I feel
Yeah.
like I've lost credibility because I am supposed to be the adult in the room who's showing them how to handle situations. And I'm there having a meltdown myself. So
Yeah.
I am trying my best to implement some of the things that we've just been talking about today. But
Yeah.
it's work.
Yeah.
And you know what I would say is just give yourself grace, be kind on yourself, because if I have mishandled a situation, I can sometimes carry that throughout the day. I even go to bed feeling bad. It really can ruin my day. And I feel like I'm such a bad mom or whatever. And so, but I'm trying to be nicer to myself because we're not perfect and we are
We're
coming
not.
from a place of love. And so it's like, okay, so that didn't go well, but let's move on. We've got other things. You've doing other great things today.
Yeah.
Look at this that you've just done. So you're not all bad. And so I would definitely advise our listeners, if you're in this type of situation, which invariably we are as mums, where we've got big emotions all around us, if you don't react
Regulate
properly
yourself.
to that situation, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing I want to bring into this convo is something that Alex does that I never had any partner do that really helped me communicate with him is
Right.
when he is hurt, he says so in a way that's very disarming to me. For instance, if I say something kind of nasty, he'll say
Mm.
something like, I don't like the way that that feels.
Oh, and so that instantly stops you in your tracks, and because he said he doesn't like how that feels,
Like
then you're
that
that
hurt
hurts
my
you.
feelings.
Yeah, yeah, it would
Yeah,
me. Wow,
immediately. I'm
that's
like,
yeah,
oh, I wasn't trying to hurt you.
yeah,
Because I've had other partners where it's like they don't say that. So then I'm going. And like it just piles on even
yes,
worse because they're not
yes,
reacting.
yeah.
I'm like looking for a response usually when I'm angry at that level. I'm like
Yes, you
trying to
are. Yeah,
pick something. I
yeah,
want
yeah,
something from you, even if it's anger. I want
yeah,
to get a reaction.
yeah.
And just having that, like, hey, I didn't like how that felt. That was really hurtful. Um, that is so good. Like, and I love that he's doing that organically. I don't know where it
Mm.
came from. It might have been something his parents did, but I hope our kids do that. And I hope that I can start kind of remembering to do that too, because it's really helpful to just know. And also when things make you feel good, like, oh, I feel really appreciated right now. Thank you for doing that for me. Like things like that. I'm really proud of you. That's something that took a lot of courage to do. Like just naming the feeling that's going through your heart right now, like in a productive way, not like I freaking hate you. Like don't do that.
Like I may have done the other day.
Ah.
So you know, so I had not thought of it like this, but big feelings can go the other way, and they can be positive too. So like
Yeah.
you just said, if something's going well, if someone's done something that's really pleased you or made you feel good, or you're just really proud of them, tell them. Don't be shy about that
Yeah.
either. Heap the praise on them because we all need that.
Well, and I've had therapists, like children's therapists that have worked with me that have said, like, what you feed grows. And
Yes.
so the more that you're sharing the positive things that they're doing, the more they do it. And so I'll do that often. Like if I see that Stella has gone through something that normally she might not do that very well, I'm not going to say, oh, last time you did this and it was the horrible and now you are, no, don't do that. But like, hey, I just noticed that you shared with your sister. Thank you so much for being kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like that was really nice.
I think that's so important. I do that with my girls too. The other night, my eldest tried a new ballet class that she hadn't been to before, and it was an advanced ballet class. She didn't know anyone there, but she put herself out there, and I was so proud of her. I didn't care whether she, was able to do the class that wasn't the issue. I was just so proud that she'd put herself forward in a potentially uncomfortable situation, and she she did, and so I was so proud, and I definitely vocalized that, and so I hope she felt good after that.
Well, and the other thing is, like you said earlier, like the good things too. I've noticed, like you had mentioned in previous episodes, like sometimes the feedback as moms that we get is only negative. Like it's only negative stuff.
Yeah.
And so another book I'll bring into the conversation. But there is a book called Bad Day, Good Day.
Right.
It's a singer book. It's through this company called Callie's Books, and it's by this lady named Mother Moon who's on TikTok. But what it does is it talks about when you're having a bad day, it's okay to have a bad day. You might be really frustrated that day, but you can be sad. You can feel all your feelings. That's okay. You're going to have another day that's good. And hopefully when you're in your feelings, hopefully it can lead to some healing and everything's just really upsetting today. But then it goes into, I'm having a good day. I'm really digging you today. And like, things are going really well and I'm facing challenges and I'm doing well. And it pauses and says, hey, I got this. And like, there's just this cute little, it's like, hold on.
Oh, how cute, right? That is so cute.
It's adorable. And so it just talks about like, some days are bad. Like some days you just like, today is shit. That's okay. Yeah. Like tomorrow will be better.
That would be a great title for a book, wouldn't it?
Oh, Today is Shit by Claire.
Maybe you and I need to co-author something like that. That would be hilarious. I could have so much information on that one.
Oh my God. I love it. But I love this because my daughter loves the song.
Yeah.
And so she sings it. And sometimes when I pick her up, she goes, I'm having a bad day. And I'm like, oh, what happened?
Oh my God. Well, at least the tune's not annoying, because that would be pretty annoying if it's something terrible.
No, it's very upbeat, even though it's bad. But like, yeah, I think that it's okay. But what I was going to say about that is now that I've read this book, and it's so funny how this little children's book has affected me, but when I'm having a good day, I report that. It's not just the negative. And so when my husband comes home, I'll say something like, I'm feeling really energetic today. Like I did this and this, and it's been really like, it's a good flowing day. How are you?
That's really good, Christina.
It's nice because you can give them your report so that you have some check-ins that are not just negative.
I love it. I love it. I want that book.
I will send you the link, but it's so cute. It came with another one that is about like body image. It's called I Love My Body. And so I just love little books like that where just, hey, let's talk about our feelings, like social emotional development. It's the same reason why I love the show Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with that. Have you heard of that show?
I've heard of Daniel Tiger. I mean, I think it's obviously for younger kids, and we probably missed it because my kids are a bit older when we moved here. So yeah,
but it's basically Mr. Rogers, which is what we grew up with, but for the new age, it's cartoon. But they talk about feelings a lot, and I love anything that is educational or social development based. That's also entertaining for kids.
Yeah,
so I maybe, I know it's for younger audiences, but maybe even Sophia might really like this book.
I'm serious. I'm going to order it. I'll like that book. I like that it's for kids because it means it's going to be a quick read as well. Oh, I'm all over that.
Yeah. So I think just today's episode's been really nice because we talk a little bit about like handling our own feelings, handling the kids' feelings, because feelings are always going to happen. Like you're going to have good days, bad days. especially with like multiple personalities all in one roof. Like someone's bound to have something.
No, it's been great. I've enjoyed today's topic. It's been very, very insightful and very relatable.
For sure. Well, I mean, so how do you guys navigate? I feel like when I was thinking of this topic, I was thinking of that Mean Girl scene where she's like, I just have a lot of feelings. But I would love to hear how our audience is taking this in. Is there any tips that you got that maybe you didn't have before? Do you have things that you do that like maybe we could learn from? Because we are not perfect and we could use some extra tools, right?
Oh God, I could. Yeah, send them my way, please.
So definitely reach out to us. Let us know all of your takeaways and all of your tips and tangibles, and we look forward to hearing from you guys.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, which we hope you have, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach even more moms and build a stronger village.
Until next time, bye.